So, a while back, I talked about the Neopets trading card game by Wizards of the Coast in a series that I called Cards from the Abyss. The Neopets card game was, in my opinion, a hidden gem of a game that was unique due to its action economy and victory point systems that ran contrary to how other games at the time worked. It also had a lot of depth, with many card interactions alongside lateral play with heroes and villains and other special things. This game is still extremely popular today, with cards and sealed product commanding outrageous prices online. As it should, it is a good game, even if it did experience extreme power creep during its short life. If they ever made a print and play demo of the Neopets card game and you know where it is, find me. It is one of my top priorities to add to the trading card game archive. A brief refresher, Neopets is an online game where you can adopt one or more unusual critters that you can feed, clothe, and train while exploring an interesting world that is loaded with its own culture, history, lore, and even urban legends, and I just bought a suspicious shovel at a garage sale. Nothing ominous about that at all.
I mean, why do you think we're moving away?
Yeah, this is definitely the shovel they used to bury the body, isn't it? During my high school years, Neopets was on top of the world, with McDonald's promotions and video games, until Webkinz came along with a more aggressive monetization model and kicked it off its high horse. When I made that video about the old card game, Neopets was easily at its lowest point. A lot of the website had collapsed alongside the death of Adobe Flash, and the company in charge of the game seemed poised to tie it up with chains. Blockchains, that is, with unwanted NFT and metaverse stuff. Fortunately, there has been a shakeup at Neopets since that video. The site is now under new management who has cast off of their blockchains to focus on updating the site for modern users with Flash Adapter Ruffle. It's not perfect, and there is still a lot of work to do, thanks to how long it took to get started to begin with, but it does mean that Neopets managed to cross the 25th anniversary finish line in a reasonably functional state. And what better way to celebrate such an occasion than with a brand new card game, Neopets Battledome. Now, the Battledome is an actual location in Neopia, which has been seriously revamped since I last played it like 20 some odd years ago, where your trained Neopet can get into battles with the various denizens of Neopia, ranging from clowns to robots to whoever this guy is, earning rewards that can enhance your Neopets. By the way,
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it!
Produced by Upper Deck, the Neopets Battledome card game is nothing like the one that Wizards of the Coast put out over 20 years ago. So, what is this new game about? How does it play? Does it measure up to the original? And why does it smell like Warhammer? For this review, I was provided with a copy of each of the starter decks, a booster box of the base set, and 3 packs from the special set released alongside the Neopets 25th anniversary. The starter decks are $20. That is a lot. I mean a lot, especially from a brand like Upper Deck. I guess the justification for this price are these set of 10 premium glitter dice, which, don't get me wrong, are very nice, but I do worry it affects accessibility a smidge. The box is a tamper-evident tuck box, just like I like it, with a couple of pouches inside to hold the cards and the dice, and a playmat with the rules printed on the back.
Crap!
What am I supposed to do with this part? I don't know. Let me check the rules. Oops. Anyway, to play a game of Neopets, you need a stack of 5 basic Neopets, all of which must be a different species. If I'm reading this right, that doesn't mean different colors, they actually have to be different Neopets. You also get an extra deck called a Rainbow deck of up to 10 painted Neopets, and a 50 card deck with a limit of 2 copies of any cards, limit 1 copy of any fairy cards, and as many copies of any code stones as you like. You will also need a few 6-sided dice, which, again, the box provides. At the start of the game, players draw a hand of 5 cards with 1 free mulligan, choose a Neopet in their Neopet stack, and set it face down in front of their opponent. After rolling to see who takes the first turn, players flip their Neopets and the game begins. Now, your basic Neopets come in one of 4 colors: red, blue, yellow, and green, but this is not just cosmetic, as they also gain a small bump in the stat that matches their color, such as red getting more attack, blue getting more defense, and etc. Once this is done, the turn player draws a card and may attach one code stone from their hand to their Neopet to a maximum of 5 code stones overall. This code stone gives the Neopet a small boost to one of their combat stats, which does make sense as code stones are the currency used to increase your Neopet's stats in the actual game, although you can also use doubloons to increase your stats. Makes me wonder if we'll ever get doubloon cards. There's also Battle Fairy quests that increase your stats, the Wheel of Extravagance, and if you go to Colton's Shrine, you can...
Get on with it!
You can then play any one fairy, hero, equipment, potion, or paintbrush card, along with as many food cards as you like. Expect to see Hot Dog a lot. It's basically Upstart Goblin without the downside. The limitation here is that you can only play cards whose level in the top left is less than or equal to the number of code stones on your current Neopet. Note how fairies and paintbrushes have no level at all. You may have up to 1 fairy in play and up to 3 pieces of equipment, all of which grant stat boosts or special abilities. The ones included in the starter decks are a bit dry, with the more interesting ones coming out of the boosters, though I wish each deck could include at least 1 spicy piece of equipment, but the basic stat bump equipment that are all over these decks do appear to be starter deck exclusive, meaning that they are not taking up space in the actual packs, so take that as you will. Heroes and potions work like supporter cards with a slightly stronger one-shot effect than food might get. And finally, there are the paintbrushes. In the online game, paintbrushes are how you color your Neopet in fun color schemes and profiles. In the old trading card game, they worked like Pokeballs, letting you switch out your basic Neopets for new Neopets, or searching for the experienced Neopets that your Neopets can grow into. In this game, they are how you reach into the Rainbow deck. The Rainbow deck in Neopets is full of your alternate color Neopets, where you must match the Neopet and brush together to get that specific Neopet out, which with brushes at a 2 of in a 50 card deck is a bit of an ask. And once you're done playing cards, you move on to the attack step. The current turn player rolls a number of 6-sided dice equal to their red attack stat, with 4s and 5s being hits, and 6s being unblockable critical hits. The defending player then rolls a number of dice equal to their center defense score, with each 4, 5, or 6 stopping 1 hit as long as that hit wasn't a critical hit. Or, in Warhammer terms, everybody hits on a 4-up with lethal hits, and everybody has a 4-up save with all effects succeeding on a 4-up as well. For those non-hammers out there, when we say 4-up, or any number up honestly, it means rolling that number or higher on a die. I'm going to be using 4-up for the rest of this video, and so should you. But what does this last stat on the far right do? This is agility. Whichever Neopet has the higher agility, after all of the dice have been rolled for combat, for each point of agility they have over their opponent, they get to re-roll that many of their own dice, meaning they get a chance to fish for a few more hits or blocks. However many successful hits that don't get blocked deal 1 damage to the defending Neopet, which we will mark with, sure. As you might expect, if a Neopet takes as much damage as it has hit points, shown in the top right, then it loses the fight. Both players discard all cards in play and move their Neopet to a victory area. Face up for the winner and face down for the loser. First player to win 2 battles is the winner of the game. Yep, it's that simple. And like I said before, these decks are a bit straightforward and dry. The brushes are little more than a power bump, and most of the equipment is just bare stat bonuses. That said, there is an interesting little quirk where, if you buy one of each deck, you get full playsets of all but like 6 cards with no waste, including important cards like Nilo, the Pant Devil and his evil twin, and Hot Dog, which are easy 2-ofs in any deck. And as a nice twist, the dice in the Fire deck are the color for attacking, and the dice in the Starry deck are the color for defending. Okay, so let's take a look at these starter decks based on my grading rubric. $20 is high, especially for a major brand. Even Lorcana's decks cost less than this. The box does have very nice, large, and appealing artwork on the front with strong use of color, and the back has pictures of everything inside, including a picture of the playmat as well as a deck list. Although, personally, I might have used something tougher looking on the front of the fire deck, like a Grarl, a Skaith, or a Scorchio instead of the Unicorn to draw more boys, but that might just be me. The box tucks closed, and the pouches can be used to keep the cards and dice apart for a while, but it's clear that they will need replacing soon. The playmat and rules are on the same piece of paper, and the playmat is complex enough to make that a problem. The gubbins are a hefty set of large, custom-molded glitter dice, the kind normally reserved for the sorts of fancy sets, and while there are sadly no sweeteners, I assume the high quality of the dice are meant to be the sweetener. Although allegedly it's possible to get a Neopets avatar based on the deck if you buy it directly from the website, that never really got clarified for me. And the decks themselves do fortunately contain a lot of cards that look reliable in most decks, even if most of them are only at half playset. The remaining 6 cards left at 1, and the rest of the game's actual depth, are found in the booster packs. These are 8 card packs with 3 commons, 2 rares, this game's uncommon, 1 foil super rare, this game's rares, 1 codestone, this game's basic resource, and a foil slot, which can be any rarity except for super. There are also ultra, secret, and rainbow rare cards on top of this. Now the cards in the boosters consist of 2 main archetypes, Fairy and Ghost. Both involve painted Neopets that work by ditching cards from your hand for a power boost. Fairy Neopets stack the card on top of your deck, while Ghosts discard them from your hand, and each has cards that work with them to let you effectively cheat the action economy. Fairies take advantage of the stacked deck with reveal effects, while Ghosts have cards that activate on discard, though I assume level restrictions still apply to any cards cheated out this way. And yes, there are Great Ball and Computer Search equivalent cards to help you ferret out those brushes. There's even already a banned card called Naya the Water Fairy that lets you pull a brush out of your deck to use and offer a power boost on top of it, even more to the already rare Rainbow Brush card. Apparently the brush pull and bonus were too much, though I imagine if it just had one of these effects, it might be fine. And I'd rather play a game bold enough to make a bannable card than a boring one overly obsessed with balance. Also, the fact that they're already banning cards tells me that people are actually playing this game, which is a good sign. It's a bit hard to tell which of these 2 archetypes are actually better, as while the Ghost-type deck makes your deck resistant to discard effects, as you get to just play the discarded cards for free, there is a card that reveals the top 5 cards of your deck. That's a lot of possible free plays for the Fairy players. So yes, while the starter decks might be a little dull, the boosters include a massive dose of much-needed depth. The art is okay. It is, at the very least, passable on pretty much every card, being on model and clean, but sort of lacking in the whimsical punch we got in the Wizards game. I mean, so many of the cards in Battledome don't have any background whatsoever, while the art from the Wizards game made sure that you understood not only the object you are looking at, but also its purpose, origins, or behaviors. Okay, so here's probably a more extreme example of what I mean between how the Battledome artwork is okay versus the Wizards artwork, which I think is a bit more accomplished. Like, this is both versions of the Yellow Zafara. Like, you can see we have the Battledome one, and when I say it is the definition of okay, I mean that, because yes, the line work is very nice and crisp. This was very clearly done with vector tools, meaning it is infinitely scalable. They could probably make a poster-sized version of this without losing any of the quality, but on the other hand, it is a bit average. I mean, this pose does have some energy to it. It's clearly doing like a handspring or something like that. A handspring on what? I'm not entirely sure. So, seems a bit obvious to me that maybe this image wasn't quite made with the background. Are we supposed to believe that it, like, jumped that high into the air? In which case, why does it look like it's about to jump with the pose, like raising its legs like that? Meanwhile, the Yellow Zafara from the Wizards game, like, this is something that's up to some mischief. Like, it's at the river, it's reaching down, trying to grab some fish. It's getting up to this sort of nonsense, and it's kind of the way you see with a lot of the Wizards art is that, they're up to like some kind of mischief. They look like lively, energized critters. And I actually kind of like how the artwork on the Wizards one does look a bit more organic. I mean, I'm sure this one was also done with computer, judging by the cell shading, but it just has that slight edge to it that I think the Battledome cards are desperately missing, except for the ones from the 25th anniversary set. I guess what I'm trying to say is the old Wizards game did a better job of conveying Neopia itself, making it look more like a vibrant, living, and interconnected world. Thankfully, the art for the 25th anniversary set seems like a step in the right direction. I especially like the art for Baby Aisha and how it's trying to give itself spots on its faces like all the little Kohdok pets surrounding it. By the way, pets are the pets of the Neopets because, like, Neopets are sapient and can talk and read and stuff, so their pets are, like, the actual animals. Pets were equipment in the previous game, but I didn't see any in this set, so we're gonna have to see what the result is there. Though, back to the subject of art, I gotta say, what the heck did they do to Vera?
Calm down, son. It's just a drawing.
The old trading card game was also popular for its included code cards, of which we got 1 per booster pack, and this one has code cards too, at 1 per booster box. Though at least the prize inside is guaranteed, unlike the roulette that the original code cards had. They also ship with the code covered in a layer of scratch-off film, so they're even camera safe. That said, the packs do have a pretty serious problem. While the box says there are nearly 450 cards in the set, it's counting all of the otherwise identical alternative foils in that number, so in reality it's more like 260 if we include the code cards. But the problem lies in the basic Neopets. A reminder that you only ever need 1 copy of any Neopet card and only 5 overall in the 65 cards that make up your deck. So, how many Neopet types do you think they put into the starter set? 8? 12? Try 22! And while the Uni and Akaras are one-offs limited to the starter deck, the other 20 come with all of their color variations, and at 4 colors each, that is 80 cards just on their own. Nearly a third of the entire set, as large as some games make sets, period. Now, granted, my booster box only had like 1 or 2 repeat cards that weren't from the foil slot, but this is still way too many Neopets cards. Now, I know people want to see their favorite Neopet represented in this game, and that I am saying this from my high horse as a fan of one of the A-list Neopets who was gonna be in this set regardless, but I am going to say it. They needed to cut the number of basic Neopet cards in this set in half. Either by literally halving the number of Neopets in the set, or by, and check this one out, only having half of the colors of each Neopet so that the other colors could be filled out in later sets with corresponding support cards. How about that? And to be honest, I would have probably done a little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. I would have cut the Neopet count down by at least a third and also slice out a color from each of the Neopets that remain. Maybe letting some get filled in by the cards you get in the starter decks and adding the other colors in later sets. You know, like the old game did it? But these boosters cannot remain in this sorry state. I am not a fan of having 5 of my 8 cards in the booster packs be basic Neopets and Codestones thanks to how the foil slot works. But even these have nothing on the 25th anniversary packs, which for the same price include only 5 admittedly full foil card packs, where 3 of those 5 cards seem to always be basic Neopets, despite introducing several new archetypes such as the 25th anniversary one, which has an alternate win condition, and Baby, which can force your opponent to do some rerolls. But the big shakeup in the 25th anniversary set is the Lab Ray, which seems to be an excuse to have a bunch of alternative treatments out, but it is also a pretty powerful archetype. By collecting all 4 of the Lab Ray map pieces, you can unlock the Lab Ray for use from out of your Rainbow deck, and once you have it out, it basically becomes a toolbox that lets you swap in a new paint scheme every turn. Like maybe you go to Robot to draw a fresh hand of cards, then switch to Sponge to reduce damage, or Alien for other effects. This, combined with the incredibly poor spreads these boosters get, has had the effect of making the Labre map pieces the most expensive cards to buy that aren't straight up chase rares, and you need a set of 4 to even use the Labre. Yeah, I'd say if the game has a major weakness, it is the distribution of cards in packs. That needs a fix ASAP. Otherwise, I do see some potential in any future sets. So far, we've only had 2 major classes of heroes and only 1 type of food, where we could easily get sets based on Pirates or Meridel or even the Void Within campaign, which might be a chance to reprint obvious staples like the Breadmaster in their grayed out designs. If nothing else, it would be a nice investment into assets, as Neopets still uses the art from the Wizards game all over the website. Come to think of it, why aren't they using this Wizards art again? Probably some sort of legal limbo or something. So that's the Neopets Battledome card game. It's not as revolutionary as its predecessor, but it has shown the potential for some interesting depth. However, it really is paramount that this game gets a little more steered on course in order to provide both a satisfying product for fans of Neopets and an interesting game that people will play long into the future. Which I think can mostly be done by just cutting down on the number of unwanted cards people can get. You can get away with doing just 1 basic Neopet per pack, that's fine. But yeah, until next time, thanks to Upper Deck for sending these to me, thanks to all of my lovely patrons for making this possible, and until next time, this is Kohdok signing off. I mean, did they have to make her all leggy like that?